So I was going through Twitter because I literally had nothing else to kind of figure out what to talk about today outside the fact that maybe, oh, I don't know, Kingdom Hearts 4 hasn't popped up in 3 years now, which makes me feel things that are just awful. But when it comes down to it, though, I saw a post by an account called Brandon Riley who was talking about how Elisa to Love Rue, the MC of that show, has basically no spine and don't know how to handle misunderstandings and things of sort like that. And as I was kind of looking at that whole tweet and basically reading the responses for it, I'm just like, thank goodness Jay is not like that. Which, granted, I know a lot of people haven't really seen that series that we have on the channel for, the story of Kakatsu and, JSX4 as a whole when it comes down to it. But just to give you a little idea of what this man does when there's a female in the presence of him, he's not going to sit here and just, hold out and, be like a little pansy boy. Like, no. Man's gonna go get that ass. If the girl has ass, he's gonna make a dash. That is ultimately how that character is, and I did that intentionally because you mean to tell me you're not gonna go clap cheeks? That's crazy to me. And that's one thing I will absolutely, always have him to do, right? And that's also something I will always sit on the heel and not really understand when it comes down to main characters of harem shows at all when it comes down to it. Now, not all main characters are like this when it comes down to these sort of shows, because you get something like the whole Harem and the Labyrinth of Another World. They was not afraid to clap Roxanne's ass cheeks like a lot, so that makes sense. I'd even argue that the main character of Data Live wasn't necessarily all that bad. He has a weirder position in my personal opinion because he has to make people like him and not really at certain points in time and do a lot of crazy shit. So, he has a track record of some wild things, but I don't really hate him, Even when he had to deal with origami, I think that shit was kind of funny. I ain't gonna sit here and lie. So you do get contenders for the main character trope that not necessarily is gonna, be in some weak ass, situation or just don't know what to do and stuff like that. Like, you're gonna have characters that is actually gonna be Chad at times. But then you get a lot of characters for the main cup of the time, the main cup of the tea that usually is just, oh man, can't wait to say hi to this random girl and then say nothing. Ultimately just to, slip up, maybe take off their skirt or whatever the hell in the most weirdest and randomest ass way ever. Who knows, Gintoki might just came through, slapped a whole ass like kendo stick at their face, and somehow that causes that to happen. And then the guy is just like, oh, fairy godparents and something like that, and they don't know how to explain themselves, and that's essentially how it is. And then they end up looking like the bad guy or the dumbass in that situation, or obviously having some girls basically like the shit out of you only for you to be dense as hell and not really realize that. I hate that the most. If I'm gonna be honest, I think that's the part I hate the most when it comes down to it, right? I know a lot of people be so happy to glaze the bitch boy Issei, to be like, oh yes, Issei is my favorite main character because he gets hoes. Do he really? Do he really? Ask yourselves, when he was in that sauna with Rias, why did he call them president and not Rias? If it was me, it's over. I'm gonna turn into the Shredder before he was the Shredder and be like, yo, Rias, I asked your fine ass one more time. Come through and let me slap that ass real quick. Like, you think I'm folding right there? No! You know how much ass Ria's got? I'm not folding for shit. That's like if someone started roasting you and then you had the death note but you did nothing. You think I'm finna sit here and just let you roast me? No, give me the book and the pen, let me figure out your name, and your ass is gone. Like, that's just how it is, right? That's the, again, when you have a fine female character, hell, if anything, you might as well shoot your shot, right? You might as well shoot the shot and just see what happens. Because why not? Especially in an anime sort of context, you could very much win that scenario. And even if you don't win, the worst thing could be is, well, you didn't necessarily do it in the first damn place, right? So if you try, you try. It is what it is. And then even when you have situations where, you have the girl literally throwing herself at you, only for the story ability or the character itself to basically just not let it happen. And it's so baffling every single time, right? Like, for example, there's a whole new show that really, I think, came out this month. Is like, I think it's called Machina-san, which is like this whole robot sex robot or whatever. And essentially, she was throwing ass in the beginning. She was just like, alright, since you fixed me up, I think you earned a little bit of ass. So come through and clap me real quick. I'm like, if you don't get on that damn bed, you stupid ass Shota, like, I'm being so serious right now. In the same way I felt about Yandere Dark Elf with the last episode too. Mans was literally in the damn whole ass, like, what, bathroom? It was like foggy or whatever. And essentially, she's ready to just let it happen, right? Let's just go ahead and just clap cheese, let it be done. Only for this man to pass out over some nonsense. What are you talking about? Me, it's over with. It is GG's. Do not put me in the same environment as those two characters. I may not have a way to make a robot pregnant, but we'll make sure she'll feel like she is. That's just how ultimately it is. And again, this is exactly why I avoided my own character, to just basically not let that be the case. Or just in general with the character that I have, just don't let him fold in any shape and form or situation. Even if it doesn't seem like something that could possibly happen, still, when it comes down to him, he'll at least try and shoot the shot. And here's the other added thing to him when it comes down to it. And again, I've said this within the Issei video that I hate when it comes down to that, man. But when it comes down to it though, the reason why I respect my own character versus someone like Issei is that, well, he gives a shit about the female counterpart, right? He gives a shit. Not necessarily out here just trying to score to get some ass all the time. Sure, that is some type of priority for him, but it's not the main priority. As long as the female is alright, it is what it is. Where you do have someone like Issei to come through, mainly have that as his focus, just getting some type of tits or whatever, and then that's it. And then when the opportunity to have more than tits pop up, he doesn't know what to do with that. And it's just like, what are we talking about? What are we actually doing here? Am I on crack? This show honestly reminds me of how, like, Yuki from Miraniki basically was just getting tossed around a lot by Yuno and all that sort of stuff, even with Yuno's crazy ass antics and everything that she's done. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. If I had to be sitting here with a whole ass yandere to the worst degree that we ever really seen in anime history, and to literally be on the worst side of time and doing all kinds of things, the least you can do, Yuno, is throw some ass my way, right? No questions asked. I don't want to see no weird shit while you do it. Just throw some ass my way, so at least if I can't escape my, your wrath when it comes down to it, at least throw some ass my way, right? Let me slap that shit real quick. Let me take that damn knife and throw it out the window real quick so I can actually show you the big black knife. I'm just saying, right? But when it comes down to it though, that's what I would like to see more of. Again, characters like the main character from, the whole Labyrinth Harem anime, or hell, even Peter Grill, right? He just folds. He just folds immediately. I hate to give the main character from Redo a Healer any credit, but at least he gets ass cheeks too. He wasted Blade's ass cheeks though, which is still something that pissed me off to no end.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
But at the end of the day, at least he gets some ass cheeks thrown his way, just out of the sake of revenge, but still, he gets play, and that's just ultimately how it is. Now, that all ends up with the one question I'm pretty certain tons of people have asked themselves times and times again when it comes down to anime in this show. Why is it that the main character always basically have misunderstandings or fail at getting a girl or something like that? And really the answer is kind of simple, because if you look at Japanese Twitter, or at least if you really see how Japanese respond to this sort of stuff, it's because for them, that's what is appealing for them. They like it when the main character is having misunderstandings. They don't necessarily mind that the main character is not getting the girl at all when it comes down to it, right? That's just ultimately how it is. That's why you get more stories like that than stories that isn't like that, right? And that's just ultimately how it is, because maybe it's relatable in some shape or form if I have to take a guess, or maybe it's just a reflective of, or like a reflection of, like, Japanese life in a way, when it comes down to not having the time to. So there's also that, or trying to maybe enjoy a story a bit longer in that sort of way. There is multiple reasons as to why potentially they like those stories in that sort of way. But for like people obviously that's not Japanese, or at least in the West, like my ass at times, for us it's kind of hard to understand why would you like the whole blue balling aspect. It's the reason why Rent a Girlfriend makes no sense. Why it's some of the worst shit you will ever really see from me. But when it comes down to it, in Japan, maybe people like the shit out of it. Maybe that's the why it's getting a whole nother season and such, right? And maybe that's why the trope still lives on in a way. So from where I'm standing from, really, I don't really see that trope going away or dying off in any shape or form, unless people in Japan really get sick of that trope or gets tired of it, and that's really about it. I don't really see that going away whatsoever, right? And again, there is, to a degree, sometimes where it is fun and it is nice to see, but at the very same time, it's also just nice to just be realistic, to not necessarily be like, oh, the finest woman is in that would be just like, right? What's a random cosplayer I could just throw out, just for example? I know, crazy, right? But what's a random person I could just throw out, for example, if I could, right? That would be like if, let's say, like Hidori Rose come through and then just sits right beside you and just like, oh man, she's sitting right beside me. I don't know if I could do something with that, or anything like that. Even if she was offering, it's just like, oh, I don't know if I can hit on that. Me, it's clap time. Okay, maybe it won't be just exactly clap time, but if it was the offering, I'm asking, and we're going to make sure we confirm things, and then once it's confirmed, it's time to go to town. It is what it is. It is what it is. It doesn't necessarily matter, especially if she pulls off like a Toga cosplay, or just like a Makoto from Persona 5 cosplay or something like that. It is GG's. But ultimately, that is what I wanted to rant about today. I don't know if there's any edits in this video or not. That's why I try to hopefully made it a bit entertainment with the speaking of things. But if it did work out, good for me. If it didn't, shit. But hopefully, still, regardless, you did enjoy. I'm tired. I had to cut grass today and just be outside all day. It sucks. I wish I had the money to not do it my damn self anymore. But when it comes down to it, though, hopefully you still enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Hit the button notification on my way out. Also on my socials. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's me, Boy J, signing off. Have a blessed day.